What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Jay Ridge here to talk some NBA prop plays over on Prizepicks for Friday, January 6th, 2023. Joined by my man Ray GQ. Yesterday, Jason Tatum did hit the over for us, but unfortunately, the Clippers, Ray, they are on the shit list. They are on the no bet list. Any Clipper game, you know how I feel about those Clippers. They are not good. They got blown out by Denver. Aaron Gordon was on a perfect track to go over his points and assists, but unfortunately, Clippers didn't show up, benched everybody in the third quarter. Aaron Gordon didn't play in the fourth, and we did not cash that one. If you played the first half, you were good, but unfortunately, if you played the full game, you were not. Today, we have a loaded slate in the NBA. Ray is back for some more winning plays and some fantasy score ones I think you guys are going to like. So let's dive into it all right after the intro. For all the high-flying action, take a step back and relax. It's time to count that money, the NBA props. No look any further. You know what time it is. Presented by Prizepicks, NBA props. Let's
count that money, man.
Well, Ray, so you look at the model right now, and you can see we have a ton of bigs lined up right now. PJ Washington, Nick Claxton, Brook Lopez. We're only targeting bigs today. And why is that? Because they get blocks and steals, and we love them.
We love them.
We take the fantasy score. So I'm going to start with my play, Ray, talking about PJ Washington. I think you could go one of two. You could go after the blocks up against Milwaukee today. You look at those blocks this guy's put up over his last 30 games, 73% hit rate. I don't know how many in a row that is. It's like probably 17 for 18, 10 in a row. PJ Washington for a block looks great. And then Ray, if you want to pull up the blocks and steals, he's hit over 1.5 in each of his last 7 games, going over 2.5 in 3 of his last 4. Fantasy score sits right now at 24.5. We have it pretty heavily juiced to the over. He's playing Milwaukee today. He did have a good game against Milwaukee last time. He had 6 blocks and steals, but Giannis did not play in that game, so I do not expect the same result. But I think that PJ's in a great spot, whether you want to take the fantasy score or you want to take just the block, which is minus 130 on DraftKings right now to the over. And like I mentioned, he has hit in 10 straight. Both are great plays. But Ray, where do you want to take the people? Do you want to talk about Claxton or do you want to talk about Brook Lopez?
I want to talk about, well, first of all, let me just say the only scary thing for me with PJ Washington is in his fantasy score is this is a tough matchup for him versus the Milwaukee Bucks. You're looking at his points, right? Like, you know, we're talking about what he did last game versus Milwaukee. Yeah, 6 blocks and steals. And even with those 6 blocks and steals, he had 0 points, Jay, the last time he played Milwaukee, which is not good, right? Not good at all. He did have 8 rebounds versus them. He had 5 assists, so he still would have cleared the fantasy score over at 29.5. But I don't anticipate PJ Washington having another, a goose egg
points,
in the scoring department. So I do like that. I like the blocks and steals for PJ Washington. I am targeting a different player for my fantasy score play. For me, Nick Claxton tonight versus the New Orleans Pelicans. He is on the road, 29.5 fantasy score for Claxton. We see this is a plus matchup, 26th best matchup, or it would actually be the 4th best matchup for fantasy score for Nick Claxton. We've got him projected for 37.6, 18% edge to the over. I love the minutes, right? He's getting about 34 minutes a game. We know no Zion Williamson today. Now, what's interesting about Claxton, Jay, if we take a look at his points, rebounds, and assists, right, and we look at the defensive matchup for the Pelicans, like they have him listed as a power forward. Nick Claxton is not a power forward. You come over here and look, Ben Simmons starts at the power forward. Nick Claxton is a center. And if you take a look at center defense over the last 7 games, the New Orleans Pelicans give up the most fantasy score for that position in the entire NBA, 62.4 fantasy score over the last 7 games versus the center position. And on the season, where are the Pelicans at on the season for fantasy score? Pelicans, right there. They're giving up about 53.9 towards the center position. So over the last 7 games, we know Zion Williamson is not going to be there. Jonas Valanciunas versus Nick Claxton. Claxton in his last game versus the New Orleans Pelicans, he had 23 points, rebounds, and assists. He also had 3 blocks and steals. You're talking about blocks and steals from PJ Washington's standpoint. Nick Claxton, poster child for this. If he just stays consistent, stays on par, what we're trying to identify here are good plays, right? Plus plays. We can't, just like Aaron Gordon last night, The results weren't there, Jay, but the process was undoubtedly there for that over to hit. And I think the same thing applies here for Nick Claxton. So give me the fantasy score. We just added pace to our model, and you see supposed to be about 103.8. So not greenlit like PJ Washington and Brook Lopez, but I do like this number, 29.5. Anytime I can get Claxton under 30 fantasy score, I'm taking the over and I'm living with the results, but the data matches it. TTD. Trust the data. Nick Claxton over 29.5 fantasy score. Jay, you and I both love Brook Lopez, so let's talk about him for a minute versus Charlotte. We know we like to target bigs versus Charlotte, so let's talk about it.
Yeah, so Charlotte, obviously one of the worst teams in the NBA versus centers. Now, whether you want to attribute that more to what Giannis will do or what Brook Lopez will do, doesn't really matter as far as I'm concerned. Brook Lopez was a player whose points and rebounds were super high in the model, whether you wanted the points, rebounds, the points and assists, and those numbers have been flying up the books. Open at 6.5 for the rebounds, have already been juiced up all the way to 7.5, and will probably be about 7.5 minus 115 by the time the lines actually close. So you talk about Brook Lopez, a player who can get a ton of rebounds, who gets a ton of blocks and steals, and another player who in the same game had 6 blocks and steals in that matchup. So I think that Brook Lopez is a great play. He can also shoot threes, where Charlotte is also very susceptible for three-pointers allowed to opposing centers. So I think he's in a really good spot. I really like Brook Lopez today. I think, against Charlotte, obviously the matchup is prime. I think the fantasy score is a good spot. He always gets a ton of blocks and steals and has very high upside in that department, just like Nick Claxton does. He can also score. He will rebound. I think he's in a really good spot, and I just believe that he's going to go over. You see they're 30th in the NBA in terms of fantasy points allowed to opposing centers, and Brook Lopez should fully take advantage of that tonight.
Yeah, I like it, Jay. For me, I would take Claxton ahead of Brook Lopez, but I do like Lopez. I like PJ Washington to get a block. I do. I like it to get a block. I think it's a solid play. It's minus 130 on the books, so that's what we're looking for. We're looking for those type of bets, making sure the plays that we're recommending on this channel are advantageous for us over on Prizepicks. We get no value with any plus money bets over on Prizepicks. If you're new to Prizepicks, use the promo code WAKEUP. They are giving out free money. We're starting the year. Don't let free money hang out. If you are a new user, use the promo code WAKEUP. You put in 50, they match you 50. You put in 100, they match you up to $100 for first-time depositors. As always, we do not make you pay for picks. All that we ask is you hit the thumbs up button, subscribe, like the content, comment below, let us know what you're rocking with tonight. If you tail, give Prizepicks hell, and if we fail, do not bail. We'll be back with more NBA plays tomorrow. Hope you guys cash out. Good luck, good night, enjoy. We out. Peace.